Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome into the Your Illini Nation pregame show. I'm Marlee Wierda. Bret Beherns and Jeremy Werner will be joining me in just a few moments from Memorial Stadium as we get you guys ready for Illinois' homecoming game against Wisconsin. We all know what happened last time Wisconsin was here in Champaign for homecoming. We'll leave that up to you guys and your impressions on that. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. It's a 2:30 kickoff on Big Ten Network today. Illinois' homecoming game. Bret, Jeremy, we got a lot to cover in our 30-minute pregame show today, but I'm curious to hear from you guys because the tailgating really kind of got started this morning at the State Farm Center with Illinois men's basketball having an open practice. You guys were there. Before we dive into football too much, I'm just curious to hear your thoughts and what that was like for you guys and for, the Illinois fans that were there.
Well, we're a minute into this pregame show, and we're already talking basketball, which shouldn't surprise anybody because Illinois is, after all, a basketball school, and they have possibly a top 10 team in the country preseason in the rankings. Jeremy and I were just talking here, Marlee, about what we saw this morning, and overall, I think the Illini delivered on what our expectations were coming in. Knowing we hadn't seen practice, it's very rare for Illinois to open practice. We saw that this morning. A couple of quick hitters, Jeremy. Big takeaways or what?
I think they're going to be really good. I mean, that's
Shocker.
not a surprise. Kofi Coburn's really good, one of the best players in the country. I also think Illini fans should enjoy Andre Curbelo while you have him. He is dynamic. I think we already know that, but he's taking his game to the next level. The keys to the car are in his hands, and I think he's going to do extremely well. I think he's one of the best point guards in the country, and he didn't make a ton of shots in the 5-on-5, but he's very confident in his shot, and he's still just making amazing plays. I also think you shouldn't overlook guys like Trent Frazier and Jacob Grandison and DeMonte Williams, kind of the glue guys of this team, great role players that I think really raised this team's floor. I think Luke Goody was a freshman, looked pretty good, like he could potentially play some small minutes. And Austin Hutcherson, Omar Payne, really good athletes. Didn't see a lot of shooting or shot making from them, but certainly add to the depth of this team. This is one of the deepest teams we've seen from Illinois in a very long time.
Yeah, everyone's asked, are they going to be better than last year? Potentially, I think it's there. I already know this, though. They're deeper than they have been in a very, very long time. I tried to think the other day, when's the last time Illinois had this deep of a roster? 05, probably? 06?
That wasn't even that deep of a roster.
Right.
Probably the 2000-2001 team, which was incredibly deep, and then had Frank Williams at the top. Omar Payne's the second best center they've had in a decade, and he's the backup. Right. I think Austin Hutcherson could start on Illinois, and they'd feel comfortable with it. And you don't need guys like Brandon Podziemski to play right away because Trent Frazier's back for a fifth season, DeMonte Williams back for a fifth season. So I agree. I think maybe it's in the mold of kind of an 01 team where it's got more depth but still star power at the top.
And I know Andre Curbelo said it at Media Day on Thursday. He's not afraid to say they're better than they were last year. I love it. I love the confidence of Andre. He wants to take over this team and really prove that they can do it again. And where that can go trajectory-wise for Illinois is in contention for a Big Ten title in March.
The other thing I would say, they just start to look like a Big Ten top-tier team, right? Like, you'd see Michigan or Michigan State or Maryland come in previous years and go, they look different than Illinois.
Yeah, size-wise.
I think Illinois' got that vibe. They walk into a gym, it's like, oh, that's what a top-tier Big Ten team looks like.
Yes, they have the length to compete. That is one of the biggest differences for me is they, like you said, look like a Big Ten team top to bottom from the size element on their roster. A bunch of 6'4" to 7 foot dudes that can compete for a Big Ten title.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see how these pieces work together. There are some weaknesses of, if you play Trent Frazier, Andre Curbelo, Alfonso Plummer, who looks really good from as a shooting perspective, but how do you defend with those guys, right? Does Austin Hutcherson, is he good enough to overtake some of those minutes of, say, an Alfonso Plummer or Frazier or Jacob Grandison, who is really good? Like Coleman Hawkins gives them even more length and versatility. Is he better than Jacob Grandison? I think that'll be interesting to see how those pieces all mix together.
Okay, we're going to talk football, I promise. Real quick, though, everyone wants to ask, what's the starting lineup right now? I think we know three, right? Trent, Curbelo, and Kofi. Who are the other two at the 3 and the 4?
I would go with probably DeMonte Williams and Jacob Grandison, to be honest with you. Like, I think eventually Coleman Hawkins could start for you. Maybe Austin Hutcherson could eventually start for you. But I don't think you should underrate like what DeMonte Williams and Jacob Grandison bring to the team as role players.
Okay, all right. You heard it from Jeremy right there. We'll mark down his words. Just like last week, I'm not trying to brag here, but I did predict the score right last week, Marlee.
Nailed it.
24-14. I got another score today. We'll see if I'm right. It's going to be somewhat similar to that. So, Marlee, we'll send it back to you. How about that for an opening couple minutes on the football pregame show with some basketball?
Hey, like you like to say it all the time, Brett. It's always basketball season in Champaign, so we'll leave it at that. But let's get to football a little bit here. I think the obvious storyline that everybody wants to talk about and Bret Bielema doesn't want to talk about is that he is playing against his former team. A huge connection there with Bret Bielema and the Badgers, of course. I think this would be a statement win for him to win against his former team and a team that he had a lot of success against. And I want to say, and there's a dog barking in the background here of our pregame show. Guys, I know Bielema doesn't want to talk about it, but do you see this being a chance for him to make a statement against his former team?
Yes, Bielema didn't want to talk about it, right? Going against his former team that he helped raise the level of excellence at Wisconsin for so many years. I want to talk about it. This is what the fans want to talk about. This is Bret Bielema, and when you saw him hired, I had the feeling and the thought of, when does Illinois play Wisconsin?
Yeah.
There it is, and here we are today. This is where Bielema wants to be. Is Wisconsin level-esque, Wisconsin, Iowa, the model of consistency. That's what he wants, and that was my biggest takeaway of this game is what's the playing field? Where is Illinois at compared to that? And Wisconsin is down there. This may be as good of a time as ever with them at 1-3 to see where you're at.
Yeah, Illinois has lost 10 of 11 to Wisconsin, and of course, we saw them win here 2 years ago, and I think they have to follow a similar script, take the ball away, make plays on offense down the field, and really force turnovers. I think that's going to be a real key today. But yes, I mean, Ryan Walters, the defensive coordinator for Illinois, is like, listen, let's talk about it because everyone's going to talk about it. I'd be talking about it if I were you guys. Bielema against Wisconsin. Bielema took over a great thing at Wisconsin, right from Barry Alvarez, but you got to give him credit. He took it to another level. When Michigan was down, Penn State was down, Ohio State were down at the turn of the 2000s and 2010s. Bielema took advantage of that and took Wisconsin to 3 straight Big Ten championships, 3 straight Rose Bowls, and he did it the Wisconsin way, and he's trying to build something similar. Not exactly the same, but he wants to build it on in-state recruiting. He wants to beat it with tough, smart, dependable players. We hear that from him all the time. He wants to build it with a run game and good defense with a complementary quarterback. And the last couple of weeks, Brett, we've seen a great run game. We've seen a complementary defense. We've not seen an efficient passing attack, and they got to take that next step. I don't know if this is as big of a game from that perspective from Wisconsin's egg because they're just looking for a win, losing 3 games to top 25 opponents. I think if this were in Madison, it'd be a bigger deal because he left them, right? And who leaves Wisconsin? Bret did it because he thought he could do better things in the SEC and at Arkansas. Clearly didn't come to fruition. And Wisconsin football, until the past year and a half, has been just fine without him, with Paul Chryst and Gary Anderson before him. So I think Wisconsin, a decade later, not as big of a deal. Bret Bielema still trying to get back to his Wisconsin kind of heyday.
Yeah, and I think you're right on the head there. This game next year in Madison will mean a whole lot more to those Badger fans than being here today, although I think just right over here is where the visiting team fans sit. I think it's still going to mean a lot to them when Bret Bielema walks out here because, like you said, he chose to leave. He didn't get fired. He made a decision to try and do something different and get out of that mold. He could conceivably still be at Wisconsin and running the West in that sense because the mold is continued. Like you said, he didn't screw it up with the Badgers. He elevated what they did, and when you start to look back here, like you said, a decade later, there's no reason in my mind that Wisconsin would be any different than they were going to 3 straight Rose Bowls all these years later if Bielema was still there. Yep. What do you get the sense from Badger fans, like, of where he's at? Have they moved on from that?
Some
do they
of them,
care?
I think some of them have. Others, it's a guy who left you and isn't faring as well. So it's like that girlfriend who leaves you, thinks she can do better, or boyfriend, and they move on and they don't do as well. And maybe they're seeing your Facebook photos happy with somebody else, right? That's been Wisconsin. Wisconsin the last 9 years, very happy with Paul Chryst, right? He, former Bielema offensive coordinator, he's done extremely well. Thing is, though, since Illinois beat Wisconsin here in 2019, they're 9-10. So they seem a little wobbly, especially offensively. Jim Leonard, the defense coordinator at Wisconsin, probably could be the head coach at anywhere he chooses if he wants to go to a Power 5 program, and could be the Packers defensive coordinator if he wanted to, but he turned them down. He's great, but their offense has certainly been vulnerable the last couple of years, and that gives Illinois at least some hope coming into this game that they could pull off an upset for the second time in a row against the Badgers in Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, and a lot of Illini fans still remember that 2019 game in the James McCord kick right on the north side there that sent Illinois home happy, and the signature moment of Lovie Smith's era and tenure that obviously didn't end very well. And as we look back at last year's game, Graham Mertz was voted for the Heisman at that point if he would have only played one game. He has not been good since then, Jeremy.
It's been awful. Illinois' got quarterback problems, so does Wisconsin. I mean, Graham Mertz, 20 of 21 for about 250 yards and 5 touchdowns against Illinois. Since then, he's thrown 6 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. So the one thing Brandon Peters has on him is he doesn't turn the ball over quite like Graham Mertz, and he got injured last week as well. He doesn't have as good of an offensive line in front of him. Usually you think Wisconsin, you think all these NFL offensive linemen, they're one of the worst in the country at pass protection, and their run game has not been nearly as good. That said, Illinois has been giving up yards to teams. They've been able to get off the field on third downs and force turnovers. Graham Mertz has put it in harm's way this year. Illinois has to take advantage of that if they want a chance, because we know Wisconsin's defense against Illinois' offense, a little bit of a mismatch there.
Yeah, and I want to break down how Illinois tries to go about that and game plan about that. Real quick, though, nothing official, but you had mentioned it sounds like Jake Hansen is going to play along with Devin Witherspoon.
Yeah, it sounds like Bret Bielema earlier in the week. We're pretty optimistic. Jake Hansen and Devin Witherspoon, 2 key starters. Witherspoon at cornerback, they've missed him the last couple weeks. That's their real weak position on defense, so to get him back would be big. And then Jake Hansen, if you put him and Tariq Barnes at linebacker, you feel pretty dang good. Kaelon Tolson's filled in admirably. Nothing official quite yet, but they do seem optimistic those two will play. Jake Hansen did warm up the last couple weeks and didn't play, so we'll have to see. But Devin Witherspoon didn't even warm up the last couple weeks. Didn't even travel to Purdue. So to see him out here warming up, as I saw him earlier, that's a really positive sign for Illini.
Yeah, a little bit of gamesmanship from Bielema there to put the guys on the field. They warm up. We in the media tweet out, hey, Jake Hansen's on the field in his uniform, and then he comes back out of the tunnel in sweatpants. So we'll keep an update on that. Marlee, as we move along here on the pregame show.
Yeah, of course, guys, nothing official yet. And I don't think we can even say for certain until we see those guys actually out on the field playing, because I know last week there were some mistakes with the starters on the video board. So I don't even know if we can trust that all that much. But Jeremy alluded to this a little bit earlier. He talked about Illinois' run game and them being successful there and struggling with the pass game. But Wisconsin has the best run game defense in the country, and that is what Illinois does the best. Bret, how much of a problem does that present to Illinois, and do you think they can get the passing game going today?
I think Illinois is going to be forced to pass. Wisconsin, if you're Jim Leonard, put 8 or 9 guys in the box, force Brandon Peters to beat you, and if they say, look, if Brandon Peters can go out and beat us, give the credit to him. That's how I would approach it. My bigger question, Jeremy, is how long does Illinois stay committed to the run, or do they just come out and fire and pass it?
All right, we finally got to the quarterback talk, right? Clear out 10 minutes, Marlee. Here we go. Illinois is going to have to pass the ball. Listen, I think they've run the ball extremely well the last couple weeks. They didn't play a defense quite like Wisconsin. That held Notre Dame to 3 rushing yards, and they have 2 of the best backs in the country, Chris Tyree and Kyron Williams. They held Michigan, one of the top rushing offenses in the country, to 2.5 yards per carry. I think Chase Brown's going to get a chunk yardage or 2. I think Josh McCray might struggle a little bit more this week against Wisconsin's front. And in the offensive line for Illinois, I think might actually be better than Wisconsin's this year, which is really weird to say, but they're going to have to throw the ball. So to win against a team like this, you're going to have to throw the ball. They weren't able to do it against Purdue, weren't able to do it against Maryland. It's a huge reason they lost that game. Brandon Peters and this passing offense have been lifeless the last 3 games. And it isn't all on Brandon Peters because the pass protection has not been good enough, and Wisconsin's great at getting after the quarterback. And the receivers have not been getting separation. I imagine they'll struggle again today. But you need your quarterback to make plays. And I thought the pass protection, the receivers were good against Charlotte, and your quarterback did not make plays. It's not just missing downfield throws, which he has to make.
Yeah.
It's also just making the wrong decisions, not going through his progressions really well. I think this has got to be the game that Brandon Peters puts it all together. If he doesn't in the first half, me personally, I'd make the change at halftime and go to Art Sikowski. But this staff seems to think Brandon Peters gives them the best chance to win. My theory would be that he takes care of the ball. He doesn't turn the ball over, and that maybe he's really close on some of those deep throws. The decision-making and the lack of pocket presence is more concerning to me, though. We'll see if he can finally break out, because if he doesn't, Wisconsin's going to be hard to score against. You're going to have to score probably 20 points to win this game. I know Wisconsin's offense isn't great, but you can't expect the world of your defense every game to hold Wisconsin to 2 touchdowns or fewer. So this is a big game for Brandon Peters in my mind. I don't know if the staff feels the same way, though.
Did you have an over-under on Illini Inquirer for rushing yards for Illinois?
Yeah, we had it about like 80. And I went under because, I mean, how can you not with what Wisconsin's offense has been able, or defense has been able to do? Now, if they get a lead, if the passing offense does well, I can see Illinois running the ball 30 or 40 times. I think they're going to have to air it out at some points today, which is scary.
I think under 80, you feel really good about that if you're Wisconsin, even if they're at 80, like you said, 3 yards for Notre Dame. And what they're able to do and what they've shown gives me a lot more confidence in Wisconsin than what Illinois is. Brandon Peters hasn't shown me that he can go out and successfully run this offense that Tony Peterson wants to run. I said it last week, I'm still riding it. I think he's a half away. If he struggles, I still think he's out in the second half because they got to get some kind of life or juice or energy into this. And I'm with you. I think not all of this is on Brandon Peters. You can't just sit back and say Brandon Peters is terrible and this offense is lifeless with him and it is what it is because of Brandon Peters. There's certain elements to that. This is a team game. Of course there are, right? But at the same time, he's got to elevate his play. And leading into the bye week, does that give Illinois more time? If he does get a half here, Art Sikowski that is, to get a little bit more comfortable leading into the bye week, and then you go to Penn State.
Yeah, I would have thought, to go back to your point, he's a half away. I thought that against Purdue, to be honest with you. And I tweeted out at halftime of that Purdue game, whoever makes the quarterback change probably determines the game. And I'm not going to pat myself on the back too much, but it ended up happening, right? Aiden O'Connell had some picks, one unfortunate, but he gave life to that Purdue offense and ends up winning the game for them late. If they don't see it first half, if they don't see any life from Brandon Peters, what are you waiting for?
Right.
I understand, like, Art Sikowski has been lucky to only have 1 interception. But with the same weapons around him, the same issues around him, receiver-wise, offensive line-wise, he's been able to move the ball down the field. He gives them life, and they've talked about leadership and how much that matters, the intangibles. And to be honest with you, deep balls. Brandon Peters has a stronger arm, apparently. He doesn't have a more accurate deep arm so far this season. So I give him a half, and if he doesn't show me enough in the half, I'm making the move. But nothing from the staff that we've heard suggests that is the case for them. Tony Peterson said Brandon Peters was 3 or 4 plays away from potentially leading, having Illinois to be a monster day. I think he left 3 or 4 touchdowns on the field, and there's probably 8 or 10 plays he wanted back.
Josh Umato-Bebe is not here anymore to catch the Brandon Peters passes, right? And you wonder how much, because when you think back to Brandon Peters, how many big plays were to Josh in the last couple of years. He's 6'3", going up and getting those balls. There's nobody on the roster that's doing that for Illinois right now.
And let's be honest, Wisconsin game, good moments for Brandon Peters, right? He was terrible for 3.5 quarters. Michigan State, great second half for him, terrible first half. And Josh Umato-Bebe made a couple key plays. Consistency has eluded him forever, and we've known it. I think that's why we're a little less patient with him than the coaching staff is, being in their first year. But how much more patience do they have? Maybe it's Brandon Peters' day. Maybe it all pays off for them with a big day or just 5 or 6 big throws, first downs, down the field throws that get them some points. But if they don't see it by halftime, I'd make the move.
So are they aggressive early? Do you just lay it all out there and attack in the passing game early, or do you wait for it and try to establish the run, or a mix of both?
I do think you got to try and be who you are, which is control the ball, control the clock, and try to run the ball. I think they should try to run with their best guys, their best weapons, and that's Josh McCray. And and Chase Brown. Now, you probably got to get them the ball in some creative ways, maybe some screen passes, maybe some getting Chase Brown involved in the passing game a little bit. But yeah, I think Tony Peterson, to be honest with you, has been aggressive the last couple weeks. I actually think Tony Peterson has done some good things drawing up some plays. His quarterback just has not made them when they're drawn up. So again, I think the one issue I have with Tony Peterson the last couple weeks is, do you feel like this is the best quarterback to give you a chance to win? You're in games, right? But at some point you got to go win them, and Brandon hasn't shown that quite yet.
All right, Marlee, we'll see if Art plays at all today.
Is that 10 minutes? So we get to 10 minutes?
I think was that pretty good, Marlee? How was that? 10 minutes of quarterback talk. We did it last week too. We looked at the time. We're like, hey, we've been talking about quarterbacks for 10 minutes, but that's what the people want to talk about, right?
Yeah, I think it was about 11 minutes and 37 seconds to be exact from when you guys first started talking about Brandon Peters. So there you go, the official number on that one. But guys, the Wisconsin offense, let's talk about them a little bit and maybe the challenges they kind of present to Illinois. But real quick, I just want to say I agree with you guys. I think if a change comes with the quarterback, if the coaching staff is even thinking about it, I think it has to happen today. I think it would be unfair if they do want to switch Brandon Peters and throw in Art Sitkowski. It has to come today, second half. It would just be unfair to start him at Penn State. But as far as the offense for Wisconsin, guys, if you know our reporter Andy Olson, he has this phrase that he likes to say. I'm not going to say it because it's not appropriate for the pregame show, but Wisconsin absolutely, let's just say, kicked Illinois' butts last time they played, right? Bret, I know you guys spoke a little bit about Jake Hansen and maybe having him back. What could he do if he is back, and how can Illinois' defense handle this Wisconsin offense today?
Well, the Wisconsin offense isn't world beaters here. I think that's what's the encouraging part for Illinois going into this, is that you look at what they've done and you're like, okay, it's not great. Now, they've played a better schedule, right? Wisconsin's got one of the best schedules in the country in that sense. But I think for the defense for Illinois, okay, why can't they go out and compete? Why can't they make this a low-scoring game, muck it up in a sense, get a Purdue-type game, 13-9 in West Lafayette, and give yourself a chance? And overall, since Virginia and even Nebraska game, only one game this year, I felt like Illinois didn't give itself a chance defensively. That's pretty encouraging.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest with you, Maryland and Purdue probably have better offenses than Wisconsin. You were able to hold them in check. I do think Maryland had more weapons. Purdue, even with David Bell out, maybe better receivers. And their quarterback play, certainly. I mean, Talea Tagovailoa had a terrible game against Iowa, but most people have against Iowa. They have more playmakers. I still think Wisconsin's rushing attack is solid. I think they'll get some against Illinois. And Jake Ferguson has been an absolute Illini killer. Half of his 10 career touchdowns are against Illinois the last 3 years. So they've had issues covering the tight end forever. That could continue to be a problem. But I think Ryan Walters' defense has shown you they're good. Right? I think the last 3 weeks we've seen trends, right? Even Charlotte had a pretty good offense with a pretty good quarterback, and they're able to hold him in check, right? Like under 400 total yards, keeping to 14 points. I thought that was a good performance for them. So they've taken the ball away. They're getting sacks here recently, getting pressure on the quarterback, and they're just keeping things in front of them, Bret, and tackling pretty well the last couple weeks. So I think they're going to keep you in this football game. I don't see 40 points for Wisconsin. Now, don't hold me to that, but I don't see that. I think they've deserved enough confidence for that. Plus, Wisconsin hasn't been good enough offensively. So I think the front's playing extremely well. I think Owen Carney's playing the best football. I think Keith Randolph and Johnny Newton are growing before our eyes. I think even Isaiah Gay, who's probably going to play for Seth Coleman, who's hurt today, I think he's played good football the last couple weeks. And safety play. Kirby Joseph, you've seen emerge as a playmaker, a takeaway in each of the last 4 games. I think Sidney Brown is playing his best football as well.
Yeah, and for me, the impact that Keith Randolph has made since coming back has been huge. I think that also allows guys on the outside like Owen Carney to have more success when there's more push up the middle, and this defense has gotten some push. I mean, Carney had back-to-back sacks last week. I thought that was really encouraging for him and really closed out that game at the end. if you add Jake Hansen back into that, I think that only helps for what they're able to do. And also Devin Witherspoon on the outside, nothing official yet on their status, as we're 67 minutes away here from kickoff. We should know more probably the next 10 to 15 minutes from those guys and what comes out. But like you mentioned, I'm encouraged by what they've been able to show and what they've been able to do, their versatility in adapting to the personnel, and that's something I think we can question about Tony Peterson and what he's done, although the last few weeks, I agree with you, I think it's been better in that sense. But if I'm the Illinois defense today, I go into this feeling pretty confident about what I can do and allowing yourself to stay in the game defensively and give your offense a chance. But it all comes back to the offense for me. Can Illinois manufacture something against this defense?
I think they should have a lot of confidence in the guy who's setting them up, right? I think Ryan Walters is setting up his guys for be in positions to win, to be in positions to succeed. They're playing lovey ball extremely well. They're keeping things in front of them, tackling well, sounding their assignments, and taking the ball away and giving their offense a chance to win. So I think they have played extremely well. I think Missouri, which has fired their defensive line coach, really misses Ryan Walters, defensive coordinator from last year. So I'm really impressed with him. I think he's a future head coach somewhere. And I think you feel really good about that staff and what they've been able to do with, they got some flaws personnel-wise, but they're getting the most out of that personnel right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Ryan Walters is here a couple of years, and he's out the door. Been really impressive, especially with us in the media. I think he handles himself really well, speaks well, able to translate things really well from football to what he really wants to get and what he means out of that. I'm super impressed with Ryan Walters. I'm not saying he's jumping ship next year, but I think in a few years here, he's going to be out the door. He's going to be a head coach, Marlee. I think overall, the Illini defense should feel pretty good about what they can do today, but we're going to hope we don't eat our words here a little bit later as well.
Yeah, it seems like whatever prediction we seem to give, it always goes the opposite way, with the exception of last week, Bret, when you had the score, right? We got about 3 minutes left here on the Your Illini Nation pregame show. Guys, I'll toss it back out to you guys quickly. Any final thoughts and maybe final keys to the game that can make this a winnable one for Illinois? In my eyes, I see Illinois as having a chance. It's not the best Wisconsin team that has ever come to Champaign, and I think maybe they're in a vulnerable position right now where Illinois can take advantage. But again, to me, I think it's going to come down to the passing game, really. And if they can get that going, I think the defense is going to give Illinois some chances to stay in this game. But at the end of the day, I think the offense is going to need to make some plays if they want a chance. What do you think, Bret?
I agree. Make the Illinois offense prove it. If you're the Wisconsin defense, that's how I go into this one. I asked you about the rushing yards over under on the site. What did you have the passing yards at for Illinois?
I think we hit it 99.5. I went over just because I think they have to. I think they're going to have to throw the ball a lot today. That's why I think it's so. We say this all the time. I think it's important for Illinois to take a lead so they can try and establish the way they want to play and potentially run the ball. If you get down to this team and to this defense where they can tee off on you, I don't like that recipe for Illinois. So I just think they're going to have to throw the ball a lot today, and that's scary for Illinois given the way that passing offense has been the last couple of weeks.
All right, time for another prediction. I'm trying to go 2 for 2 here. I'm not sure I've ever predicted a score right in my life, so last week was certainly the anomaly there, but we'll see if we can do it again. What do you got on the site right now?
I had 24-9.
No, you did. That's seriously the score that I was going to have.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think it's going to...
I did not look either. I promise. I didn't look at
Wisconsin, by the way. Okay. I think Wisconsin's offense can be able to move the ball a little bit, and I just don't expect Illinois to be able to hold Wisconsin to the teens. So I just think Illinois' offense is going to be in a bad spot, and I just respect Jim Leonard, the defense coordinator at Wisconsin, so much. James McCourt, I think he'll have his leg work out today, and I just don't think Illinois and the passing offense deserve enough respect at this point to think that they're going to be able to score on Wisconsin.
Honestly, I did not look at the site to see your prediction. I don't to look at predictions. I visit the site. I don't look at the score predictions because I don't want to know, but that is the legit score that I had in my mind, 24-9. I think Wisconsin scores 3 times. Illinois' defense able to limit them to 1 field goal on the day. And I just don't see Illinois scoring a touchdown today. I know that sounds a little bit harsh, but I think it's where they're at. And until they can show me that they can prove it against Iowa, against Wisconsin, I can't buy into that.
Let's see. I'm doing some quick math in my mind here.
That's dangerous for me, so I'll leave that to you.
26, 50 points the last 3 games, right?
Yeah,
so you're averaging 17 points a game against defenses that are far, inferior to Wisconsin. So why would you have them scoring more than 2 touchdowns in this game? It's hard to predict that given what we've seen.
I'll let Jeremy do the math. Marlee, we'll just talk for a living. I don't know, that's good with you. Were you a math guy?
I was okay.
Okay,
I was
I was
okay. I did
terrible
not
at
do math in college. I was done with it by that point.
See, the old journalism rule is you don't take math classes because you just talk for a living. All right, we both got 24-9. Prove us wrong, Illinois. We'll see if it happens. Marlee, what are you thinking today?
You know, we don't do math here either, but I think it's gonna be a little bit closer. I'm gonna say 21-24 Wisconsin. Even though I always like to go for the underdog. Now, you know what? Maybe I'll switch it. I'm gonna say Illinois.
All
Why
right.
not? Let's go against everyone. Let's break all the rules.
Jeremy, for Illinois.
I love the underdog storyline. So I always usually, Illinois has been the underdog pretty much in every game that they've played. So I've pretty much said Illinois every time. So we'll see. I think it can potentially happen. Who knows? Maybe not. But hey, if I'm right, then I'm gonna brag about it on the podcast later tonight. But guys, any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
Yep, we'll see what happens here. We've got 61 minutes until kickoff. Head to Illini Inquirer for plenty of coverage. You got an hour to look at the site. I know Jeremy will have the podcast afterwards. We'll have our thoughts as well on the 3-1 podcast, and we'll see how it plays out today. Illinois trying to get some positive momentum going into the bye week. For Jeremy, I'm Bret. Marlee, we'll send it back to you.
All right, guys, thank you so much, and we'll have more coming tonight as well on WCIA 6 and 10 o'clock news. Bret will have highlights and a report coming later tonight. And like you mentioned, the WCIA 3-in-1 podcast, Jeremy Werner, always look to Illini Inquirer for his content as well. They'll also be giving live updates for the game. And we will also be streaming Bret Bielema's post-game press conference right here, wherever you're watching, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, the WCIA app, or on our YouTube channel. You can listen to Bret Bielema's thoughts after the game and how this one turns out. Wisconsin 1-3 coming into this one. Illinois 2-4 as Illinois looks for its second Big Ten win of the season here in their homecoming game against Wisconsin. That'll do it for us here on the Your Illini Nation pregame show. For Bret, Jeremy, I'm Marlee, and we'll see you guys next time. We'll be taking a break next week, of course, with the bye week, but be sure to tune in again in 2 weeks when Illinois is on the road against Penn State. We'll see you later tonight on WCIA, and thanks for watching the Your Illini Nation pregame show.